Una locura.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, buenas tardes. Lindo verlos. Daniela.
Nice to see you all.
Good morning, Barbara. Ángeles.
Hola, buenos días.
Hola, Leti.
Hola,
Lindo
hola.
verlos. Hola, Dani.
Bueno, buenos días, se me había
All right.
cortado la conexión.
Good morning.
¿Les parece de seguir comenzando?
So why don't we start then? How are you doing?
Bueno,
Good morning.
gracias. Bueno,
Okay.
les compartimos la agenda de trabajo para hoy.
So let's
Hoy
share
tenemos
the
nuestra
agenda for today.
reunión
We have
específica de
our
el board
specific
de
meeting
Unicervitate.
today
Ustedes saben que tenemos
of the board
a
of
veces
Unicervitate.
reuniones
You know that
juntas,
sometimes we have
board,
joint meetings,
tabs,
the
y otras
board
veces tenemos
and the
específicamente
hubs,
reuniones
and
por
sometimes we
los
have
hubs
specific
y
meetings
reuniones
with
con el
the
board.
hubs and then separate
Esta es
meetings
una
with the
reunión
board.
específicamente del
This
board.
is a
Ayer
board
nos
meeting.
reunimos con los hubs,
Yesterday, we
además de
had a
las reuniones
meeting
que
with
hemos
the
tenido
hubs, and apart
semanalmente
from
con los
the
hubs
weekly
y también
meetings
ya
we've had
con
with
varios
the
equipos de
hubs and also
investigación
with
del board que
several
ahora nos van a contar
research teams of the
que
board
estuvieron
that are now going to
se
tell us what they've been
focalizó la
doing
conversación. Entonces,
and what they've
si
been
les parece,
focused on. So if
compartimos
you
la
agree,
agenda para la
let us
reunión de
share
hoy
the
y
agenda
ya,
for today,
y ya
and then
avanzamos. Hoy
let's
estamos en
move
nuestro
forward.
11 de junio, hace un
Today
ratito,
is June
la
11th.
Pontificia Universidad Católica del Ecuador
The Pontifical
animó
University of
la
Ecuador has just
una oración muy
led
hermosa,
a
muy
beautiful
linda,
prayer,
llevada
very
adelante por
nice,
estudiantes
carried out by
y
students
focalizada en el corazón de Jesús,
and
esta
focused on
fiesta
Jesus'
celebramos
heart.
mañana. Si tienen la
What we are
oportunidad de
celebrating
mirar la
tomorrow,
oración, si no pudieron
actually.
estar
So if you
posteriormente a esta
couldn't
reunión,
be
nosotros
there,
la
we
compartimos a
will
través de la
be
plataforma de
sharing
Give
the
Pulse,
screen.
pero
We
bueno, fue un
share it
espacio
through the
muy hermoso para rezar
platform, the Give
por
Pulse
todos,
platform.
por la
But
paz
it was a very beautiful
y por todas
experience to
las
pray
intenciones de
for
cada uno de
peace
nosotros,
and for the
de Jesús y
intentions
a
of all
través del
those that
mundo
attended.
de aquello que nos preocupa
About all
Además, en
our
esta parte del
concerns.
mundo y en muchas partes
And
del
in
mundo
this
ya
part of
estamos
the world and
vibrando
in many
por el
parts of the
mundial
world, we are already
que también empieza
beginning
hoy
to
y que
feel the
también
World
tiene
Cup that is also
nosotros
starting
el
today.
fútbol
And we love
con la
football,
agenda de
soccer
esta semana
here.
también
So con
esa cuestión.
that's
Bueno,
also part
tenemos,
of this
vamos a
week
compartir los próximos
agenda
pasos
for us. So
de nuestra
let
red
us share the
global,
next steps
cuáles
of
son
our
las
global
actividades
network,
fuertes que tenemos
the strong
para los
activities we
próximos
have for the
semanas y
next
meses.
months and
También
weeks.
vamos a compartir
We are
acerca
also
del
going to
simposio
share
global y ahí
about the
les vamos a
global
pedir a los distintos
symposium, and
equipos
then,
de
well, we're going to
investigación que
ask the
nos
different
den una
research
brevísima
teams to give us
síntesis de
a
cómo se
very
preparan
brief
para el
summary of how
simposio.
you are preparing
Esto
for
fue
the
conversado en las
symposium.
reuniones que ya se tuvieron
This
con
was
los tres
discussed in
de
the
los cuatro
meetings we've
equipos,
had
con el
with
equipo de
3 of the
espiritualidad nos
4
vamos a
teams.
reunir mañana.
Spirituality, we're going
Y
to meet with them
después, buena
tomorrow.
parte de la reunión de
And
hoy se
then
va a
most of the
concentrar
meeting
o
today will
focalizar en
focus
conversar sobre la tercera
on
etapa.
talking about the
Tercera
third
etapa
phase
de Unicervitate,
of
proceso en el que
Unicervitate.
venimos ya desde hace
We've
varios
been in
meses y
this
que
process for several months
ha
already,
tenido algunas novedades en el
and
último tiempo
there have been
y que
some
también
news
compartiremos con ustedes
recently
para
that
cerrar
we
alrededor de
will
las
be
11
sharing
de
with
la
you, and we
mañana
will be
Argentina,
finishing
es
at
decir,
around
de
11
9 y
a.m.
media a
Argentina
11
time.
sería
That's
nuestra
1
reunión
hour
de hoy.
and a half. That will be our meeting
Pasamos por favor
today.
a la siguiente.
Let's move on to the next.
Gracias.
Thank
Bueno,
you.
estamos en la presentación, ¿sí? A veces de los próximos pasos, pero también
So this is the
en qué estamos
presentation
en
about
este
the next
camino
steps,
de
but also where
seguir
we are
tejiendo,
in
seguir
this
tejiendo la gobernanza y la
building
sustentabilidad
of
de la
governance
red
and
global.
sustainability of the global.
Como hemos charlado y conversado aquí, este año culmina la
As we
segunda
mentioned,
etapa
this year is the
del
end of
programa
the
Unicervitate,
second
que es la
phase
red
of the
global
Unicervitate program,
Unicervitate,
that is now
y
the
en ese marco
Unicervitate
seguimos
Global Network.
construyendo
And
el
as part of
futuro de
that,
la
we
red
keep
juntos. En
building
ese
the future
sentido,
of the
hemos
network
tenido
together. So
reuniones
we've had meetings
con
with the hubs. We've had individual meetings, one-on-one meetings, and we've also shared with the universities that are part of the global network for some time now a form to ask the universities for suggestions as to how to keep building governance and sustainability in this network. And we've also asked them for a letter to universities, a letter signed by the authority.
O reconfirmar, digamos, esta adhesión. En ese sentido, ahora después vamos a repasar los números, pero digamos, más de 60 instituciones
More
mostraron
than 60 institutions
compartieron números que
have
nosotros estamos procesando y que hemos compartido también en reuniones con
shown
Porticus, y también seguimos trabajando con
their interest,
aliados,
and
la
we
FLUC,
continue working with
OCAL,
Porticus, with the International Federation,
organización que nuclea las instituciones jesuitas de todo el mundo,
the organization that brings together all the Jesuit institutions around the world, the Salesians, the Marists. Maria Cinque and Karina Rosas have been participating in Rome in the leadership program for the La Sallian institutions. It is the third time we participate there, and they are there as ambassadors for CLAIS and Uniservitate and service learning. So here we have different actions that allow us to to set up again this alliance and the network.
So these are our next activities, and it's important for all of you to bear this in mind, because being proactive and anticipating some events can also help us be connected and bring ideas to the meetings that can help us all move along the actions ahead. In July, we will have on the 8th of July our next global meeting. Then there will be a meeting of the Asia and Oceania hub in India, July 16th through the 24th. In August, as every year, we have the 29th International Service Learning Conference in Buenos Aires. Remember that that week we have one day that is the Uniservitate Day. That will be on August 26th. We are organizing that with the San Isidro University, and with that university we are organizing some activities that focus on the institutionalization of service learning, getting to know about service learning projects that are in progress, and also celebrate faith in community, the faith that brings us together in this global network. Then 27th and 28th of August, as you know, that's a conference. So we'll see some of you there, although we know that this year the focus is on the 7th Global Symposium, and there, yes, we will all meet in person. In September, on the 2nd of September, an initiative will be launched that we've been working on for a long time. It's a big new thing for clients, for Uniservitate, and for the global network. That is a global certificate. It's an activity that we've been working on for a long time. Remember, those of you that were here in Buenos Aires in August last year, we discussed about these things over dinner. I remember Daniela, Miguel. I don't want to leave anybody out, but those things we discussed in August last year, that exchange of ideas about the history of CLAIS and Uniservitate, well, that becomes a reality in this first edition. That will be sort of like a pilot test as well, because it's a global training that we want to start on September the 2nd. And as some of you asked us about the dates when you will be involved, we are going to over those dates today, as you requested. And then on September the 10th, we have a global meeting. In October, again, we will have the hubs meeting on the one side and the board meeting on the other. And then in October 26th through the 30th, we will have the Global Symposium. That is the event of the year where we want to share, as we always try to do, an activity that is robust from the academic perspective and professional perspective, but also that brings us together in this experience of celebrating what we've been doing and the faith that brings us together. And why not also the concerns and the questions that are part of what we are, what we do, and what we know. So October 26th to the 30th, that's a symposium. And all the activities there, well, now we're going to see the details of the activities during those days. And then November the 12th and December the 10th, the global meeting. These year-end global meetings. So if you have no questions, let's move on to the next. We've talked about this already. August 26th, Unisavitate Day, during the International Service Learning Week in Buenos Aires, on the 26th at the San Isidro University, and 27th and 28th, that's CLI's conference. And then those days, then we will be focused on these issues. Next. So it's important to mention this because we know that many of you, as members of the board, also play some roles. You hold some positions in the network. So any information you can identify about these events and disseminate them with Montserrat, for instance, that is here, and others have done it as well. It's very good that you help us amplify and disseminate these activities, even though you cannot attend them. So we know that the information is reaching the whole world. And so it's important for you to know that we will have this international activity in August and the symposium in October. So it's important for you as well to disseminate this information. And whatever you need in terms of communication, you can let us know. Milagros in our team, she's the one that makes that link and that connection, and then she shares the details through the social media or however you consider relevant. Then, so this is the agenda. You will be having this. You can share it now or by email. So these are the dates where the synchronous meetings will be held for the certificate program. And we hope you can participate as members of the board. So then we will send you the details as to what we are thinking of, particularly in each case. But as Daniel mentioned in some communications he sent you some weeks ago, within this diploma program, our intention is that all the experience you have in service learning and as part of a global network, well, can be part of this certificate that is very important for us. So they have the dates of the meetings, the synchronous meetings, and you have the names there. The meetings are going to be held on Wednesdays, 9:30 to 11:30 Argentina time. And then once you have the agenda, some of you had asked us to post this in the calendar. So if you have any difficulties on these dates or at these times, well, you let us know if we can reschedule it. So it's September the 2nd, October 7th, November 4th, and November 25th. There you have the dates and the names. So if you have any question about this, of course, you can. The idea is these are synchronous meetings. That is, we will have to be connected as participants, as students of this program. Is there any question about this? Yes? No questions? Oh, Monse, I see you raised your hand. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when are you going to have the material for some save the date posting or something, something basic so that we can share it, the save the date post, but with a short paragraph or something that we can use to disseminate this program? Yeah, Montserrat, we have the save the date already. That material is prepared already. If you want, we can remind you where, not just where, but based on where you want to share it, then we will be giving you something different. But for instance, in the Unisovitate web page, there you have the information already about the save the date. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, excuse me. It's in Unisovitate web page, right? Because based on the email I received, the dates I had were different. I had September the 9th, but well, I will correct that. I think Danielle gave me that information. You mean the dates for the certificate, right? Yeah, for the synchronous meeting. Yeah, I will talk to him directly. No problem. Now, Miguel, something important, and then we can continue individually. But now Gabriela will be, or Gabi will be coordinating that. Gabriela Di Lazio. She's from CLICE, and she will be the contact person for these things. So instead of writing to Danielle, then we will give you Gabriela's contact information, Gabriela Di Lazio, and she will contact you. Fantastic. Thank you. And I have a question as well about the schedule that you're sharing. I understand that the synchronous meetings are those that you see here that are scheduled already. But the week that is mentioned there, for instance, in our case, from the 23rd to the 29th of November, that's the module. That's the duration of the module. Exactly. Yes. So during that week, I mean, because we didn't say anything about the modality, material or whatever. Okay. So we only schedule the date of the synchronous meeting. We don't have to block the whole week. No. And what we still have to do is send a communication with all that information you're mentioning, Daniela, as well. So can we move on? ¿Tienen otra? No. Good morning. So what we were thinking with Danny after the meetings we had, and we're going to have a meeting tomorrow as well, knowing that each team is in a different moment in the research process, so to respect that, in a minute and a half, why don't we tell the rest of the board what is your expectation as to what you can present in the symposium so that we can have an idea about where each team is now. Of course, these are just expectations, but what do you expect you will be able to present there if all the calendars that we've been sharing, I mean, are met? So I'm going to ask each team to describe in a minute and a half, to say, well, our expectation as a team is to share, to present this at the symposium, so we can get to know where we are, where we all are, and start being in the in the spirit of the symposium. Who would like to start sharing? I see, well, everybody actually. Okay, Leticia and then Maria Cinque. Would you like to start, Leti? Good morning. With Monse, what we've been discussing, and with Ezequiel and Daniel, is that by that date, we will have a document that will be like the systematization of the history of the network and how it has strengthened and evolved a long time based on our theoretical framework, that is the theory of structuring. But most importantly, a policy brief where we will show the strengths of the network and the recommendations for actions to be conducted for this to be sustained in the long term. And then an article that we can, that can be published so it can be disseminated. That's what Monse and myself have planned to present that day. I don't know, Monse, if you would like to add anything? No, just say that the idea then is to have the final results and the outputs that Leticia described. When we had the interview, you advised us to focus on item 2 and 3. This the historical document perhaps was not that relevant. I mean, to have it ready for the symposium, knowing that we don't have so much time, and some of us have the vacation period in the middle, so and we still have a big workload that is quite important. So that is what we discussed with Letty. Perfect. Thank you, Letty and Monse. We will pass the floor now to Maria Cinque.
The selection was based on the Uniservitate self-assessment process. And these institutions represent different geographical areas, different educational contexts. So at this stage, we have carried out 6 interviews or focus group. We need to do further 6 additional interviews that will be completed. Mercy, please correct if I'm wrong, by the end of July. We should have almost finished by the end of July or early September.
Yes, by end of July, we should be able to.
Yeah. And the analysis focuses on the why, as Andrew Fulk has explained. We highlighted in the question, we focus on facilitators, barriers, challenges, strategies, institutional identity, and recommendation. We have already carried out a focus group thematic analysis. So we coded the expression, the affirmation, and interpreted some data. So by now we already analyzed 2 anonymized cases. And from these first 2 cases, 2 provisional institutionalization pathways have emerged. The first is a strategic integration pathway based on leadership, structures, and planning. And the second is a cultural pedagogical, what we envisioned as a cultural pedagogical pathway based on values, innovation, and academic diffusion. This is just a small synthesis of what we are doing. So the next step is to complete data collection, expand coding, compare pathways, and build a transferable model. Please, Mercy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do you want to add something, Mercy?
No, Maria, as you said, the rest of the institutions, we should be able to complete it by end of July or in early August.
Wonderful. Muchas gracias, Mercy, María.
Thank
y le
you,
damos la
Maria
palabra a
and
Daniela.
Mercy. Now I'll give the floor to Daniela. Hello, everyone. In our case, the spirituality team, we intended to present the guide for the promotion of spirituality in service learning projects. We have already finalized that guide. There is a rubric we are working on until the end of June to have the methodological validation of that rubric. So we wanted to share how we developed this project, but I think that the symposium would be a good place to make these instruments known and also to get people's reactions. We also expect to have a publication of this guide. We have been speaking with Maria Rosa to make sure that we have a standardized edition style or publication style, and then we can work on disseminating information about that. We still have to complete the implementation phase in some universities. We are using as pilot test institutions, but the guide has already been validated by several experts, so we expect everything to work out well. But we think that the symposium is a good place to share information about the research process and these tools that can promote the spiritual dimension in service learning. Let me also say that we thought that we should put forward this to your consideration. Perhaps we can have this presentation or a series of presentations within the hubs with participating universities, because as we advertise and implement this tool, we believe that the guide can prove to be useful for the hubs and institutions. So perhaps we can consider working with the guide in a workshop format, not just in a presentation mode. Perhaps Mikel and Aranzazu want to add anything, something else. No, just let me say that right now, as Daniela said, we are now in the phase of validation, making sure that there is semantic match with the rubric. And also we need to work on the usability analysis, and that will depend on the language of the implementing institution. So that's all I have to add. Thank you. If I may, let me say that we are glad to see that this is taking shape. This is an output that we have been working on for a number of months already. We are quite happy with the results. We think that we can use this tool to assess the spiritual dimension in service learning projects. We believe that this can be useful for institutions. So we are very happy with what we did. Congratulations. Yes, there is no doubt that this will be a very useful tool. And your idea, Daniela, is also great. We can have the symposium as a forum where we can share the information about this work with all the rest. Barbara, would you like to tell us what your expectations are?
So we are at the moment finalizing the IRB with the hope of securing the implementation of the both conversation and survey this fall. I am mindful that that will likely mean we'll begin gathering data September, October. So my expectation would be we will be able to in around preliminary things, but I'm not certain that all 6 campuses will will have their surveys complete by the time we gather in Rome. What I have talked with our lead researchers about, and Daniela mentioned this, I think what we might look at doing is trying to offer in the dialogue that the courses will be implementing. It is a 4 rounds of conversation around spirituality that we might, what I would hope to be able to do with the participants, is to give them an experience of what we are doing with the research project. That will depend on the time frame for the workshops, like how much time we have so that we're able to do that. But I think it would be an interesting kind of insight to the project, and also then give greater context as we look at the collection of data.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, this is a very interesting process and methodology you are working on in order to show the progress you have made. Well, thank you. As you can see here, we have really interesting projects, and we are eager to see what you come up with. So let me give the floor back to Andres now. Sorry, Ezequiel, if I may, let me add, especially on the topic of spirituality, that in our team, we thought it was interesting to consider another aspect. We did something like that in the Latin American Hub. We could consider a space for exchange with other research teams who are working on this theme, especially with small grants researchers. We had the chance of participating in a webinar in order to get to know what other teams are doing, what lines of research they are working on. So we think it would be interesting to um, network with other teams to find some synergies and supplement one another, because there are interesting things to share. So perhaps you can consider that proposal. Thank you, Daniela. I think that is an excellent proposal. It is true, we are now focusing on the symposium, but we will continue working after the symposium. So we have to think how we share all this information. Rosie, yes, I just wanted to mm, make this point. It is very important to establish some synergy. The symposium will be key in order to promote other meetings, other encounters. But when we consider introducing Give Pulse, we thought that Give Pulse could be a platform for resource sharing. It could be a meeting point for us. So we would also like to build a space within the Give Pulse platform, because we would like to set up some subgroups in each research line. So that could be an option. So if you are interested, please know that that tool is available to you and we can all work together there. Great. Thank you, Rosie. Andres? Apologies, I got lost because my connection dropped for a minute, but I don't know if you have already touched on this, but please remember that in the framework of this research work, you have available some information generated by the program. What do I mean by this? We have shared the monitoring and evaluation reports with the institutionalization team. As we gather and publish that information, every year we have our internal monitoring and evaluation process. So the team working on institutionalization can take benefit of that information. We get a global report and then a regional report. And then we have an institutional report because there is a report sent to each institution from that monitoring and evaluation process. We do have that information available. We have already shared it with institutionalization team and also with the network research team with Montserrat and her colleagues. So please make sure you tell us what you need because we have that information available to you. I have shared my screen again so that we can continue with the providing information about the symposium and the different events there. Thank you, Danny. So let me go on. So let's go over the program for the symposium. We expect to arrive on Sunday the 25th in Castel Gandolfo in Mariapolis, where we are going to stay. Porticus, Claes, and the board members will be there. The hub members will stay in nearby places. So we would have meetings on Monday, the 26th, and Tuesday, the 27th. And we would have the symposium sessions with the board panels, with the breakout sessions. And I should say that we will have students and teachers who have been award winners. But remember that this year we are also presenting an award to service learning programs. So all these will be part of the symposium. So we will have a symposium focused on the maps of hope, how we can contribute to the common good, how we can shape these maps from service learning. Probably in our next meeting, we will ask you for some suggestions. We will have a more detailed agenda. And on Wednesday, the 28th, we will move to Rome. Castel Gandolfo is approximately 30 kilometers away from Rome, but on Wednesday, we would have our activities in Rome. We will have the general audience with Pope Leo, and we expect also to um, have some special activities there. And then we have the rectors meetings and a mass service and closing dinner with participants. Because those of you who are not board members or coordination members or hub leaders will already be departing on the 29th in the morning or in the evening of Wednesday the 28th. But for the board members, the coordination members, and the hub leaders, we expect to depart on Friday the 30th. On the 29th, we will still be working there on the third phase, the board members, the coordination members, and the hub members. On the 29th, we would be working there. And on the 28th, with the Pope, we expect to have the hand kissing possibility. And so we will have a more detailed agenda later on to share with you. So on this slide, we have the information that I have just shared with you. I don't want you to get confused. There is also some information that we have given to the hubs. This is the information for the board members, what I have just shared with you. So we can work on further details closer to that date. But once again, remember that we expect everyone to arrive on the 25th, and we will have activities throughout the week, all the way until the 29th or the 30th. The symposium will be our gathering place where we will have all the presentations, where we will showcase all the work that we have done. There we are expected to shine. So now let's talk about the third phase. Here we have a few slides talking about the logistics, transportation, how we will move from the Rome airport to Castel Gandolfo. And of course, here we have very useful information, but this is something you can have a look at on your own. So if you agree, unless there are any questions about this, we can move on to the next part of this meeting that it's also at the heart of the discussion, and that is the third phase. I don't see any hands up, so if you agree, we keep on going. Great. I'll take the floor now. As you know, we are carrying out many activities right now, but we are also working hard on planning for the future phases. Porticus has told us that the program would be ending as such, and Uniservitate will start working as a global network. For the planning process, we need to gather input. So we need to go through a listening exercise to see what happens with institutions that are now participating in the program, the regional hubs, the supported universities, the member institutions through the membership program, which are quite a few. And that program is also growing. And we also establish connections and links with different congregations, different associations. And in some cases, we even signed specific agreements with Oducal, YALO, the Marist Network, and other associations like the International Federation of Catholic Universities. So when we were putting together this slideshow, we thought it was important to specifically survey other aspects. We wanted to have a good record of the positions of rectors. So we called upon all rectors to fill out a form so that they could share their own ideas about sustainability and governance of the Uniservitate network. That was quite interesting. It was very interesting to see their responses because we could see the level of commitment. Some of them had clear ideas on how they would like to continue their participation in Uniservitate. So later on, I'm going to share some information with you because we are systematizing all that information. But here we have some initial figures. This is very important information to us, especially because we are preparing some information to share with Porticus.
I'm sure you will find some slides more familiar, like this one. And what we did is, based on the different lines of action, see which were considered more necessary in order to maintain the consolidation of the network, the global symposia, having a space for virtual exchange to keep informed and connected, the importance of the global award, but also we identified some lines that may be funding opportunities because, for instance, academic production, well, it's increasingly larger and it's not just from CLIs, but also increasingly from the hubs or from research projects. So today, the repository is increasingly fed and it's being recognized as the space that could also be co-managed with other institutions. The same about the research grants. The thing is that having this network from where we could build a consortia to go out for funding together for different research lines, that will always be more powerful than when one individually wants to face a research project. The same with the trainings that have been conducted from the hubs or discussions, as we had recently with ODOCAL, that is the Organization of Catholic Universities of Latin America, where we can also start organizing specific trainings for different regions and obtain the funding together so that all these activities are increasingly sustainable. So while we are in this process, what we did was identify the actions that for us would be very important to keep. Well, first, something that came out very clearly is the importance of the community and the participation of the coordination also that we've been doing so as to maintain the network consolidated, the role of the hubs, the importance of visiting the regions so as to work on the ground, the participation of the board that is essential for us, the work that you've been doing to consolidate and lead and guide the network, the students' symposia that have also become a highlight, and of course, the global symposium as a moment of exchange, encounter, and learning, the award, the research meetings, trainings, the publications, even all the monitoring and evaluation process that resulted in a very good tool for the institutions to rethink how to move along with the institutionalization. So in the column, you can see on the left, we started seeing, well, who could contribute for all of this to keep working? Of course, CLIs, of course, the regional hubs. That's why these consultations and the engagement letters of the rectors saying that they want to keep supporting the development of this network. Also, member institutions, perhaps that had not been working actively, but today they are showing a significant interest and a very important support to think of new strategies. The different networks, as I mentioned, congregations, different associations, and also think of donors. Today, we have the Give Pulse platform, to give you an example, through which we've been able to manage the award. We're using it for communications, for the global prayer, other students symposium. And we do all this because the platform was given to us for free, and we have a 3-year agreement to use the Give Pulse platform. And I mention this because we don't always need to have the money itself directly, but sometimes through different products and services that are what we need as a network, that can be a great support. And of course, in the list, you will also find Porticus. It says to be determined because since the announcement made by Richard saying that the Porticus support was over, and then we had different meetings in between, particularly with the Brent Meyer family. Things have been changing a little. So I will ask for your prayers because next week on Tuesday, Richard is coming to Buenos Aires to work with us on the sustainability of the third phase. Just in case, I want to be very cautious. I don't want to say too much, but we might have sustained support from Portuguese, not as it's been so far, but to favor the uh, continuity of the network. So I count with your prayers for next week. So with this, and now I will, let's move to the next slide. Taking into account that we are thinking of this governance structure, this governance structure to keep working in coordination with all of you, for the hubs also to be organized in their own universities, to have an active team, to hold a symposium. And with this line of moving from a centralized execution to something that is much more representative for the hubs and more intended as a network. So bearing this in mind, we are going to have, let's see in the next slide, the meeting with Richard. Okay, leave it there. So, and to use this moment and to listen to you, because we will have Richard in person, we would like to share your suggestions, your requests with him. So there you have a QR code if you want to use it in the Padlet, or you can write here in the chat or say it out loud and we can record it. So that we can use this opportunity, which is quite decisive, to think how we can move ahead with Unisovitate as a network, with everything it implies. As Richard himself used to say, they feel that, the children are now adults, they have to fly on their own, but it's always good to have mom and dad close by. So we wanted to open the floor to you because you play a very important role for the program. So Richard is coming here to prepare the presentation he's going to make to Portuguese. So this is the moment to give him all the information, recommendations, suggestions, and prayers so that everything is successful. So the idea is that once he works on this internally together, that's why Unisavitate in Castel Gandolfo, the idea is to define there in Italy how we're going to work as from next year. So you can write or take the floor if you want to make a contribution. Is there any question?
Yo quisiera comentar algo.
Sí, sí.
I would like to say
Sí, lo que
something.
hemos, Monse y yo,
Monse and I, what we found out in our research project is, well, I would like to share a slide actually. This one that says that we are a community of reflection, which is very valuable because we are a network that has been organized itself It has reproduced and transformed its structures. Now it has rules, resources, it has principles and values. We have institutionalized practices as a network. And we have organized ourselves because there's permanent interaction among us as members through meetings, through events, symposium, the conference. And there's also a series of emerging formal and informal networks that have been created a long time. But we're a flexible network that has consolidated and remains alive. And we have something that brings us together, that's service learning and our purpose. So the fact that we are a community of reflection means that we are a community that has a solid foundation to keep growing and uh, staying a long time. So I would say this to Portuguese that we are a network that thinks, that reflects, that builds knowledge, that that it has a dialogue that learns, and this can be seen. Its structure is alive because of these reasons and others. So the the word community, like a common unity, that is something that I would highlight. And this is what I would share with Portuguese because we have evidence of that. Excellent. Thank you, Letty, for your contribution, because precisely the research that you are doing is clearly intended to give us elements in order to support our work and explain our work and the characteristics of Unis Vitae. So that's very valuable, what you are sharing, because this is it's based on a specific research that you are conducting. So thank you for that. Yeah, I saw that you had written something in the Padlet. I don't want it, if you want to share it out loud. Yeah, I shared it in the Padlet, but apart from, well, thanking you and making the results visible, I'm sure that Porticus receives this through the reports. And as Letty mentioned, in our experience, what I would like to share is that so many synergies and opportunities have been created based on the results obtained. So it would be really a shame. It would be so sad to just uh, interrupt them like that. So the message has to do with that. It would be strategic to keep supporting, perhaps in a different manner, with other tools, to the extent that it's possible. But actually, this has opened possibilities to keep working in lines, in processes. So adding porticos to this task with all this movement of support by institutions, by rectors, by congregations, which is very important globally, I think that would also be a good way, not of asking porticos for support, but of inviting them not to miss the opportunity of being part of this big process. I think the maturity process has made it that perhaps at the beginning the program was totally dependent, but now it will be interesting for Portuguese to keep participating because it would support us, but also they, and as an institution, could be part of a global program that has achieved many results that um, reveals processes in the area of spirituality. A whole line of work has opened that is amazing. I mean, we have so much to keep working on and so many opportunities to coordinate. So if you manage to share that with them, I think it would be a good message. Thank you, Danny. I absolutely agree with that. Remember when last year we went to Rome for the Jubilee? God wanted us to also meet Richard and one of our family members there. And a 30-minute meeting ended up being a very long meeting, very intense, where they were able to listen directly to all the things we were doing in the program, particularly because of what you mentioned that I think is very important. It's important to record it. That's why we ask for your contributions. All the emerging things, those unexpected things, all those things that were generated by a program that even during the pandemic it could have stopped, but how service learning has this energy that moves us, that challenges us. And well, of course, it challenged each and every one of us and the students when we put the focus on spirituality. So I think that what Portuguese needed was to hear this. And after that, there was a very strong change in their attitude of saying, we don't want to miss this. This is more than we expected. And it's worth staying with them because it resonated in many places. So, what we need is precisely to identify those emerging things that came up as a network inside each university, the new things that were built. Because, for instance, the student symposia were not planned. However, there are more and more, and the latest in Latin America was wonderful. So that's why it's very important for us to listen to you and to record all this. Yeah, Miquel? No, along the same line as Daniela and you. I don't know if we can have access or if you have at hand the foundations, let's say the basis for the foundation, because that could help us highlight those things for them, those who created the foundation, and perhaps it could match our products. Perhaps if we could have access to the foundational objectives of Porticus, perhaps we could write something that then we can share with you, and then you can do what you deem relevant. Because sometimes when these foundations set their objectives, we know that they're very general, but to making them more specific, sometimes it's difficult for them to really understand if they are meeting those objectives. But I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think that many of the general objectives of Porticus are being met without them being aware that they are. So that would be another argument. Perhaps it's not relevant, but if we can have access to that information, or perhaps it's available in the web, I don't know. Perfect, Miguel. Well, initially, what I shared in the chat is the link to Portugal's webpage. And there you have a clear description of the institutional objectives. But I would like to add something else. As you know, one of the big programs in Portugal has to do with safeguarding, the prevention of vulnerable people. And actually, one of the reasons why they had decided to remove part of the support for UNICEF was to focus in the big safeguarding program. They invited us to participate in the safeguarding program in order to integrate service learning there. And actually, the grant has been approved, and now we are starting work on that project to see how this can be implemented within universities, how it's implemented when the students go out to the community to participate in the projects, and then how we can work with the institutions that are involved in the service learning projects. And I mentioned this because here they are seeing that precisely through service learning, they managed to achieve this specific connection with the community. And that was the intention of the Brennan Meyer family at the beginning. You know that they started with a C&A brand. I mean, the Brennan Meyer family is a Catholic family. And when they started with their business, in each place where they opened a store, they try to work supporting the development of their community. They try to be at the service of the community, and they develop that in each location of their stores. That, well, kept growing. They partnered with other companies to together help more with this very strong line of supporting causes related to the Catholic faith, but with a strong commitment with the most vulnerable. So these are the two big lines where, of course, there's a strong interest in education, but not only that. So this is the umbrella, let's say, and mainly the specificities of service learning, because spirituality is not just an expression, it's a spirituality that appears in specific and concrete actions to meet the other, to find the other, and to provide a fraternal service. So this is what they value so much. Because if the spirituality component was not there and everything that Daniela mentioned that is increasingly growing, perhaps it would not have been so appealing for Porticus as a program. But they found this combination that is not only academic quality, it's not just community engagement, but also being consistent with the faith that we promote or with what the humanity needs as well. That so clearly even the Pope mentioned in not only in the latest encyclical letter, but also in the compact as to how to take care of the inner being. So that is what they saw. That was what was not written as a plan, or perhaps was like a utopic line of what was intended. It is truly happening. And I think the big differential factor in the meeting I had with them in Rome was to share this with them. Today, students feel challenged in their faith after the service learning experiences they are involved in. And a very concrete sample of this, and then I will pass the floor to you, is that recently, just today in the global prayer, it was very nice because they refer to the Good Samaritan parable. And the students made this direct connection between, how through service learning projects, they could also meet the other that they were supposed to help. And there's even a very nice image that I captured because I'm going to share that with you a couple of seconds because I think it's very representative. Give me just a second because I shared this in the group. Here it is. Let's see if I can share my screen. They said, what I'm asking, sir, when going over the memory of my work, show my projects in my cell phone, I ask you to tune in with the parable to feel and like what your spirit is encouraging in my hands, my mind, and my heart to love you more and follow you. So this direct connection with the parable, how they could make it real through the projects they were involved in. And these images, these pictures they had in their devices was a perfect representation of that opportunity they had had. So these little bits of evidence that may be very simple make a student today recognize how to strengthen their faith through these projects where they can bring to reality something that they read a lot about, but they had not found the true meaning.
And if I may add to what you have just said, Maria Rosa, the impact on the professional profile is essential in order to have consistency between life and faith. Perhaps the impact here is felt in the medium term, but in addition to allocating resources to projects to work with the most vulnerable people, we should consider making sure that future professional profiles have this vision incorporated based on faith, values. It is difficult to show this, but it can be seen in this kind of examples. Students that have gone through these processes with their teachers have life perspective that is completely different in terms of their faith. And so I think that this shows that this meets all the requirements of an engaged secular movement. I think that we are in sync in that. We are in line in that regard. Yes, I was looking at the Padlet. I think that Bibi also added something in the chat. I don't know whether you want to read it.
Sorry, I'm struggling because I'm working on my cell phone. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So my suggestion is that we strengthen the regional chapters so that they can have independence, so that they can also apply for regional funding. For example, in the African region, I think they've matured quite a lot, and they can now approach the African Union, for example, for regional funding amongst themselves and include other universities and other networks. There's also the idea in terms of sustainability that you could look at BRICS partnerships with organized regions working together. And then just as Daniela made the comment about impact and you know, the curiosity that I've always had is, so does this stay with students through the rest of their lives? The idea of an alumni network came to mind for Unisaritate as part of sustainability, but also a way of tracking and maybe even sourcing additional funding moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bibi. Yeah, that's a great way to go. Yeah, that's good strengthening. Yeah, that's why we are also having meaningful meetings with each of the regions, and we have also asked them to share their intentions. And it has been great to learn that all the regional hubs had mentioned that they really want to keep working with the network. So this is not easy because we have been working for all of them since the beginning, and they never anyone wanted to leave, even where we have some difficult situations sometimes. I remember ACCU once sent us a note saying we don't want to keep being our regional hub at the beginning. And then they found a way to gather a consortium of different universities to work together on the development of the different activities. Or with Leuven, we went through difficult times, and they confirmed that they want to keep working with this idea that you're mentioning, Bibi. Now that they have the opportunity also to think other activities or initiatives, or to look for other alliances that within the framework of the program, they might feel quite, following the lines of the program, and now as a network they can think of other opportunities. So I think that our support should go also in that line to help them develop the particularities that they identified, along with what we do in service learning, to listen to their own needs and perspectives and accompany them accordingly. So thank you for your input.
Yeah, I do agree. Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you, Vivi. Someone else who shared in the Padlet that wants to add something? If not, thank you so much for your contribution, and we will make sure that Richard is. Oh, Letty. Yes, Letty.
Sí, algo que no comenté.
Something that I have not mentioned earlier is that we have been thinking about this recommendation. Uniservitate can have an interaction between and among universities, and students play a key role in our universities. But in turn, in service learning, community partners play a very important role. So in the network, perhaps we haven't given them the place or the voice they deserve. So perhaps that could be an option to see how community partners can help us and play this important role in order to avoid this view of looking at them as learning labs. Service learning should integrate community partners. And so if we incorporate them into the network with their own voice, we can have cross-sectional approach here in the network. Usually those of us who have similar ideas tend to participate in the network, but we should also consider including them. So how we can integrate community partners into our own dynamics in the Uniservitate network, that would be my suggestion, just to keep that on our radar. So perhaps in the discussion with Porticus, you can also think about integrating the community into the structure and dynamics of Uniservitate in the future. Yes, what you have just mentioned, Letty, is extremely important. Thank you, because we undoubtedly have to strengthen our work in that area. Aranzazu, by way of contribution, I have, of course, a limited knowledge of movements at the global level, but I think that the network that we have created is unique. Also considering the economic and political challenges at the global level, we see a change now. We see this with the visit of the Pope here. There is more interest in going somewhere else. We see now the Congress people applauding the Pope. So I think that this is quite a unique network. This is what we have built, this community. So the language of humanizing education, of looking at others, serving others, is a vision that the world needs to listen about. So I think that the results are obvious after so many years of work. We have a lot of evidence of the outcomes, but if we have this larger field of work, then there will be a great burst here. So, and this is, of course, something that has to be in line with Portico's ideas and budgets, but we need something to help us grow towards self-sufficiency, towards autonomy. So perhaps a greater resource now could help us get there. I think that we are very close to our ultimate goal. Yes, I fully agree. Yes, we need to take advantage of this momentum. Yes, we cannot waste this opportunity. Barbara?
I wanted to build on Letty's comment a moment ago. I was just last week at a meeting that brought together the ministries of the church. So education, higher education was there, but so was healthcare, like Catholic hospitals, and social services. I think that aspect of community engagement that our institutions do through service learning, especially with particular attention to those on the margins, is it both enriches the experience and understanding of faith, right? That I think enriches our students and the practitioners, and it brings us closer together as a community within our local regions. And so I think that sense of Letty's point of the importance of community engagement is just so important for us, and collaboration across ministries of the church, I think also supports that. Yes.
Faculty or with researchers at the universities. The pillars could go in parallel ways. And this is what service learning is bringing, and we are seeing it at the program. For me, it was great to see in the symposium, in the post meeting, that you could see a rector, a student, a researcher, a faculty, all sitting together from the same university and talking to each other. That's something that we are not used to in general within the universities. So yes, I totally agree with you. So, Andres, I think it's about time.
Sí, es una buena hora
Yes,
para
and
ir
this is a good time
cerrando
to start wrapping up
la reunión tal como habíamos
this
agendado.
meeting
Solo nos
as
quedan
we had planned. We only have 2 points of information to share with you now. The next meeting would be held on July the 8th. So we would like to talk about the symposium and the agenda for the symposium, but we would also like to talk to you about your experience as members of the jury or as evaluators for the Uniservitate Awards, because some of you will be or have been involved in that process. So this is very important for us this year. So we are reaching an important milestone in the process because some regions are already finalizing the evaluation processes. So the projects and the programs, or sometimes they are just finalizing parts of those programs. So as we did in prior editions, we are really interested in listening to your feedback. So that is a topic that we should include in our agenda for our next meeting. Of course, we can also have an email exchange with more personalized input. And then at the end of the presentation, we are going to share this information with you. As a global network, as a program, we are systematizing the information in an experiential manner. So by this, I mean that we are trying to illustrate the program with quantitative data, but I'm going to tell you about a publication that will try to systematize the history of the program and the evolution of the program and how this program is now evolving into a network. So we are working on a publication to gather all this information and systematize it. So for that systematization to reflect this constellation, our community, we want the voices of the board members and of the hubs to be represented in that publication. The publication is being prepared by the coordination team, and we expect to present it at the 7th symposium. So this is what we are inviting you to do. Until June the 28th, we would like you to send us by email an answer to these questions, just a brief response, ranging between 150 and 250 words. We don't want a lengthy reflection. We just want a brief response to the following questions. What does Uniservitate mean to you? And what do you think Uniservitate contributes to your community, institution, or region, perhaps at the institutional level or as a board member? Or so what do you think the network can contribute to your community, institution, or region? So if you can send us those responses by June the 28th by email, we would appreciate it. It should be brief, 150 to 250 words, and we will consider that input for this publication after 7 years of this program that is now evolving into a network community. So those would be the 2 points of information that I wanted to share with you. And
Andres, just a quick question. Who do you want us to send that email to? Does it go to you, or who should we send it to?
yeah, if you agree, Maria Rosa, perhaps you and I can be the people, and you can copy Daniel as well. So Maria Rosa, Daniel, and myself, Andres, please.
Thank you.
Is it okay, Barbara?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So I think that would be all for today, and we can bring this meeting to a close. I thank you for your time, for your participation, and hopefully we will meet again on July the 8th with the spiritual team tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Adios.